Hello, everyone. I'm Grace. I'm super excited to be partnering with Bravo Studio today to bring you a wonderful workshop on how to design your personal brand to help you stand out as a job seeker, freelancer, entrepreneur, anything you want. This space and also help you make friends on the internet. So there's a lot of usages and advantages to having a strong personal brand. And during this workshop, I'll teach you how to leverage yourself to make yourself stand out and make friends, meet more people, and gain more in life. So let's get started. During our workshop today, I will be going through a really brief intro about myself and kind of going through the foundations of personal branding, tying in real world examples of brands and how successful brands do it, and then later applying it to your own personal brand. And later I'll be going over social media, how to utilize social media in particular to express your personal brand, how to create your own online identity. And later after that, I'll be going through some visual principles on how you can design your own personal brand. This is totally optional. This is super important if you're a designer though, but definitely these are some ideas to think about as you want to strategize in content as well. And then I actually have a nice little Notion worksheet for y'all, which I can link below in the chat. And then feel free to Q&A. I will be responding any questions on the YouTube comments as well, so you're welcome to do the same. So let's hop into it. And this slide deck is actually with my own personal brand. On my own portfolio site, grace-ling.com, I use very similar shapes, colors, bunnies, like I have a bunny here, a bunny on the slide. So I'm also demonstrating my personal brand as I'm presenting my presentation to you. And this could come in many different forms. So I'll be giving you some examples throughout the presentation. So everything I would say could be actionable. So it will help you level up your career or personal brand as well. So a little bit about myself, I just want to say all views are my own. They do not represent my employers or my former employers. So right now I'm currently a designer at Electronic Arts. I'm also the founder and design lead of Design Buddies, which is the largest design community of the world. As of August 2021, we have nearly 26,000 members on Discord. So definitely join, hop in with the fun if y'all want. And I studied computer science and engineering in college at SCU, and I'm from California, and I have random side hustles. I have a small art business. I used to table at anime conventions, really into social media and blogging as well. This is a very brief overview of my design and personal branding journey. For personal branding, I've actually been on the internet since I was probably really young, middle school, high school. I was involved in DeviantArt and branding myself there, and later Tumblr, and later Instagram, taking that to Discord and LinkedIn. So I had a lot of experiences branding myself and just testing out things with my target audience and seeing what works through all these different forms for the past 10 years or so. And personal branding basically helps you build your foundation. So what is a brand? Well, brand is basically, think of brands like Nike, McDonald's. How do they make you feel? Like Nike, just do it, right? So these are some brand examples. They're about how you perceive the brand. They have their own personality. So Nike, just do it. You feel like very athletic. You feel very like if you purchase like Nike clothes, you likely want to go out to run. And for contrast, you have McDonald's next to it. We have I'm Loving It, like you bring in cheer, and Apple, Twitter, all these brands, like they bring in some feeling, right? And so personal branding is really taking that to your own self. And so basically a perception and experience. And you think of brands can have different things like a logo, a tagline that you always remember. So it's really great for marketing yourself as well, just like how these brands have marketed themselves. It's basically the personality of the brand. But now we're going to focus on personal branding. But yeah, what is a personal brand? So for example, Elon Musk has a very interesting brand. He tweets a lot about crypto and is very edgy and also really future forward, cares about the future of humanity. So all these things are reflected upon like his content, his companies and stuff. And these are also some other people that you might recognize their brands in. So just think about these people as like examples of personal brands, where you can take them. And so basically your own personal brand, just like how we've kind of made some assumptions about those brands before, like Nike, is basically how do I want to make people feel when I show up? This could be anything. Do you want people to feel inspired? Do you want people to feel like they trust you? Do you want people to feel motivated? And also, what do people say when I leave the room? Just like what I said about like Nike, I thought it was like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go for a run kind of thing. So think about all these things and what these like big brands use and how to take these things to apply them to yourself. And basically, your brand is an extension of yourself. You already have your brand. You just need to know how to strategize it, so like package it, express that. But as just like your personality changes, your brand is an iterative and lifelong strategic and creative process. So don't be afraid to just kind of go out there and showcase yourself. You can always change. Life is always learning. Everything you're always learning, iterating, and improving on yourself. So it's always a work in progress, but it's never too late to start. And it's super important to invest in your personal brand because it helps you stand out for the competition. For example, I'm going to give an example of design because that's the field I'm in. In order for your portfolio to stand out amongst the thousands and thousands of recruiters and hiring managers we see, is a strong personal brand is one part. Also, to gain advice and knowledge because you can build your network. If you have a personal brand, then people are likely to follow you on social media. Well, similar people can find you easily and really know what you're offering, what your content is about, and want to follow you and gain some knowledge from it and build your network too. It also helps become more featured in media too, because now you have a strong presence. Now the media have more to write about you. And so this is really, really important, especially if you want to grow your following, grow your company, grow your brand, become famous. This is all really, really important. And it helps you also build more trust and authority because you have all these like content and branding you've created for yourself. That's all consistent. And then in terms of the freelancing model, if you're going the freelancing route, then it can help you attract more clients and also offer some premium pricing because they're going for like branded person instead of a non-branded freelancer. It helps you ultimately generate more leads. And a big disclaimer is personal branding is not self-promotion. It's basically expressing yourself, doing things and telling people, telling the world what you're doing, and just putting yourself out there. Not saying that like, oh, I'm so good at this, but you are putting yourself as an authority. But it's not like blatant self-promotion. It's just basically showcasing yourself on your own site, on your own social media platform. So, and the goal is to really express yourself out there, make yourself known. And in turn, similar people will connect with you, or you can connect with similar people and they'll know who you are. And so this is just basically some tips, some like little roadmap. First, you want to build a foundation, really dig down to your mission statement and understand who you are, and later kind of carry these into social media. I'm focusing particularly on social media because that's where my experience areas are. And nowadays with technology, we're all in social media. So if you are an entrepreneur or doing something digital, this is really important. Also content strategy, how you can strategize your content for social media to align to your brand so you can get the goals, get the clients, get the leads you want. And later you can also engage in a community to meet other people too. But you first had to build yourself first so people know who you are before you engage in the community. And so number one, building your foundation. So this is where you want to dig deep within yourself and think about who you are. Like, what are your life goals? Like, what's the meaning of your life? What do you want to do? And also like your personality, how you sound. Like, are you shy? Are you quiet? Are you loud? Are you extroverted? Are you happy? Are you enthusiastic? Are you authoritative? So just think about these things and how these relate to your character, and like also like how you do it. So all these things make up the basis, like, or like a thesis statement of your personal brand. And this is the time where you really want to build up your mission statement, which is your thesis statement. And you still want to dig deep and find out what your core values are, what your vision is, what kind of personality traits you have. Sometimes it's good to take like personality tests to find out like what kind of traits you are, just so you know more about yourself. And then you want your goal, because your personal branding will be a little bit different depending on your goals. For example, you want to land a job, then you really want to showcase your skills. If you want to gain clients, you want to showcase your experience and your expertise in that niche that you're in. You just want to share knowledge, you want to express more about yourself, and etc. And then your target audience, you also have to think about that. If you're landing a job, then you are designing for hiring managers and recruiters. And these people will browse through your portfolio really, really quickly, like 30 seconds. And so you really need to make sure you surface like the mission statement and just like the basis of your brand really quick. But if you're getting clients, then these clients will probably look through your portfolio, look to see if you have done similar projects in that niche and stuff like that. So it really depends on your target audiences, but all these things kind of apply no matter what your target audience is in my presentation. And you also want to know your story. Stories, I stress on this a lot because stories are basically how humans relate to each other. They're the fundamental unit of human understanding. They want to know like beginning, middle, end. What's the conflict? Who's the hero? Who is the guide? What's the journey? And how does the hero solve that? And it's just like naturally humans want to finish stories. They get caught up in it and they want to know more. And so that's why storytelling is super, super important. And knowing who you are and being able to share that with people on social media. And then for mission statement, basically just to narrow down even more, is to basically get to know yourself better and why do you exist? Like what's the meaning of your life? Like I said earlier, what's your reason of being? And so basically you need to think about like, what do you do? What business are you in? Who do you serve? Who's your target audience? And how is the world different as a result of you existing? So just to be more actionable, I have some examples of that. So for my example, I have more examples, is my goal is to create digital experiences that people enjoy while making a social impact. So I really like creating communities. I also really like product design, designing products to help people more. And these things can go into things like your LinkedIn bio, your about page. And these are basically, it should be general, so I can expand upon that. Just so I'm also involved in, like, just for example, I'm involved in a lot of product design for my full-time job, and also community building. All these things are digital experiences and they create meaningful social impact. So I like to think about like really broad sense and how all these little moving pieces of my projects and stuff I do align to that. And some other examples is to positively impact the life of every person I meet, and also encourage, equip, and others to believe in possibilities. Like if you're a teacher or something, and inspire positive change through teaching and coaching if you're like a career coach or life coach. So these are just some examples of really broad, but really like meaningful things that people can have on their site to really help you stand out. It's kind of like your elevator pitch and how you want to pitch yourself to people, how you want to pitch yourself to potential clients, how you want to pitch yourself to investors, how you want to pitch yourself basically to anyone and to your hiring manager and stuff. So it's really important. Also another way how you can stand out. And they should be really short too. So one line, like an elevator pitch, 15 seconds, so people can know a little bit about like who you are and what you do. And basically, it's how you tell your story. It's really, really important because don't let someone else tell your story. People have a lot of assumptions, so it's really important to make that clear. It also boils down to just doing things and telling people, which I will go into next for social media, how you can just do things and strategize the way you tell people so you stand out. Now, social media, expressing your personal brand, telling people the things you do. And so the goal of it is that the second part of personal branding is basically choose your channels. By the way, I have these steps outlined over here and a little section of a presentation over here too. So you can follow along that way. And for your channels, it's typically important to have both a website and a social media. So your portfolio is, your social media profiles are not your portfolio. They're generally less professional. So it's important to have a website, especially if you are in some kind of creative field like design. The goal of it, just to share content, give value, and also engaging with others, being active and stuff like that, and also having a consistent brand, voice, image, and tone all across the platform so people know who you are and strengthening your brand. And ultimately, first impressions are critical. Usually people are inundated with so much information left and right. And so first impressions, they really do judge people they really do judge the book by its cover in reality, because there's so many information on the internet, how people like navigate, there's so much out there. So really hone in on your first impressions because they are really critical. And so basically kind of going to further into like what channel. So those are basically the goals of it, to really just share yourself, have somewhere you can just like a home base for yourself. And so for your channels, you definitely want to have a home base, which is where you put all of your content, for example, your website. If you're free to check mine out as well, it's just grace-ling.com for an example. And also, you can't just have your website. No one can really find it. And so that's where you want to go to other platforms where people hang out, like LinkedIn and Instagram are just examples. It can be like Twitter for you. These are just basically how you get people to come to your website and communicate with them. Usually like your biggest social media platforms. For me, it just happens to be LinkedIn and Instagram. And then usually things with more like temporary content, like stories or like Twitter or like Snapchat, where things disappear after 24 hours. You can talk about things that inspire you, not necessarily in original content, but just like things that inspire you. Like you can retweet like motivational quotes and stuff like that too. So you can also do that, just things you like, inspire you as part of your personal brand. And then number 4 is you can also have places where you can share content and promote yourself in, and or just like share your content in, potentially to go viral. So there's like groups, especially like Facebook, Discord, Reddit, communities as well, and Pinterest as well. So you can leverage these things to potentially go viral. So it all starts with a website, your home base, because that's where people likely check you out first. And then in order to get people to come to your website, you need to be in places where people already hang out, like these social media platforms, to direct them to your website. And then and to direct more people to your social media platform, you can go in groups. So they all kind of funnel into each other. But it really boils down to the home base, because that's where people check out most. But no one knows about you until you tell other people about you. And this is how you can tell, this is where you tell other people about you. And then now you want to, after you have your home base down, you want to think about like, what kind of content do you want to share? Like, what do you do the best? So definitely highlight your best projects, especially from a UX design point of view. You definitely want to highlight your process, how you think through problems, how you solve problems, how you collaborate cross-functionally, things like that. If you are a client, or if you're a freelancer and you want to talk about your process in collaborating with clients, how that works for you and how that would work for them too. And then for your about page, so in your about page, you definitely want to tell your story. So more about yourself. So it's more than just like a LinkedIn bio or like more than like an Instagram bio. You want to tell about how you got to where you are today, what inspires you, what do you aspire to be, and things like that to make yourself stand out. Because I said before, like humans like stories. So use this place to tell your story. And then optional, but you can create kind of like DIY tutorials, blog articles if you're a content creator, things like that. Some helpful content for people, like a reason for them to go is to learn something new, not just like learn about you, but they want to learn about like your expertise or like your favorite books or things like that too. So all these things are like suggestions on what to include on your home base or like your personal website, same thing. And so now jump a little bit ahead into social media profile. So it's super, super important to have a complete profile. And usually these things will include like a handle. Basically, you want to keep your handle as consistent as possible. Candidly, for just my artist name that I have been consistent with for a number of years. And you also have your name. This helps people like search who you are. And then you definitely want a bio. You want to know like who you are, what you do. And on Instagram, I can show some examples later on, but it's definitely a lot shorter. You have shorter character count, and some social media like LinkedIn, you can make it a lot longer. And then you want calls to action. So your links, like where do you want people to go? Do you want people to follow you on Twitter? Do you want people to follow, check out your website? Do you want people to check out your blog? Like what is your priority? Include that in your bio too. And you also want to make sure your profile picture is really clear and it recognizes you. And then your content. And this will really, really depend on like who your target audience is, what your goals is, but having like content can be examples of like text, photos, GIFs, blogs, more videos, and more. It really depends on your platform as well. For example, for like text posts, they're probably not that great for Instagram because it's a really visual platform and so. I'll let you be going more into that soon. And so these are just like some examples of bios. This is LinkedIn, where I kind of showcased a little bit more because I have a higher character count. But in the beginning, I have a mission statement, and then I have what I currently do, and then I have like education background, what I do outside, my involvement in community, speaking engagements I've done, and call to action to connect with me on all of my social media platforms. I put them all because I had the space to. But for example, on a platform like Instagram, it's a bit shorter. So I just have like designer and founder and design lead and just like spaces out like that. Also like on Twitter, it's a lot shorter. And also I have links to my other social media platforms like RIG. I have my Discord link because I want people to join. That's like one of my calls to action. I also want people to check out my website. So I have that here. So I have those here. So those are kind of like the most important things. I also tag design buddies because I want my followers to also follow design buddies. And another last thing I wanted to touch on is that if you work for a company or work for yourself, it's important, or work for a client, it's really important to have all views are your own because of just like legal purposes and stuff. So just to make sure that you don't get in trouble for saying something, but just saying that everything you say is your own on all the social media platforms you have. It's just a good practice to have as well. And so now I'll hop into a little bit of content strategy. So for social media, goal is to really tell a story. It could be written or content. It could be like written or video form, depending on who your audience is, what your goals are. Some like YouTubers, they definitely want to make a YouTube video telling about their story. Some people might not like being on camera, so they want to create like a blog article about their story. Basically, the goal of it is just tell your stories and experiences to make a personal connection. People can relate to you. For example, I like to tell stories about when I failed and what I learned from it, or when I won, but like how I failed to get there, or how I failed and learned and then got there. So I like to be really, really relatable, not just like, oh yeah, I'm excited to announce I got this role, like look at me, I'm so cool. But that doesn't really help anyone. So what I like to do is create content that really helps people, rather like, and it could be in the form of giving people actionable tips, inspiring them to do something, and things like that too. So I really put myself in the other person's point of view to know what their pain points are, their wants and needs, and strategize my content that way to serve them. Because I can just like flex, but that doesn't help anyone. So I think about it that way too. And for my content strategies, which leads me into my next point, which is listening. So really engage with the communities. If you're into design, you should join design buddies or other design communities. Check out designers on LinkedIn, what they're talking about. And so support others, like and comment, help people like get more likes on their posts and stuff like that too. Knowing trends is also a little bit helpful to create your content, strategizing around that too. The goal is just to really just give back, not really like people will know if you want them to pay you money. If that's like really, really obvious, people can smell that. And so if your goal really is to make more money, then you shouldn't make that clear, because people will like smell that from like 1,000 miles away. So just really focus on creating just a positive impact and just helping out. Without really expecting people anything back, and people will naturally come, at least from my experiences, as a disclaimer. And definitely want to have a lot of quality and consistency. And so sometimes this happens where you have your own logo, or you have your own catchphrase, or like Nike with just do it, or McDonald's, I'm loving it, things like that too, that you can use to create even more consistency across all of your social media platforms. And so another pieces of advice for the strategy content is to add a call to action. So do you want people, like your blog post, you're talking about like this new launch you had, or like top 10 ways you can learn design, and you want people to join design buddies, then you can add to the bottom, and you can be like, in order to engage with designers, like what point number 5 said, participate in communities, you can join design buddies. And just like add, or you can also have people just comment below. For example, like what are your favorite fruit? Or tell me about like what problem you're struggling with. And this helps people just add call to action. Like, what do you want people to do with this information? Do you want people to click on a link? Do you want people to sign up for a course? Do you want people to book a coaching session with you? And just have that as a call to action, as the purpose of that post too. And then a lot of times visuals will also increase engagement. They receive statistically more likes on Twitter. You can also connect using hashtags to further become part of a community. For example, like sometimes events will have certain hashtags you can use, so people who are browsing the hashtag can view your content and connect with you. Or you can use it as humorously for like afterthoughts. For example, hashtag YOLO, hashtag swag, hashtag yellow swag, things like that. Really depends on your target audience. If you're like working for like a medical device company, you probably don't want to use that. But if you're working for like a games company or a more playful company, then you can probably use that. So again, it depends. That's like my favorite answer. I mean, like, well, not my favorite, but the most common answer is it depends. And then last thing is timing. I like to post during prime time, but prime time really depends again on your audience, your niche, your time zone. And so a lot of times, like, you can use analytics, like Sprout and HubSpot are 2 examples that we can use. And then you can also look at your Instagram analytics to see when's the best time people do. Or just do some quick Google searching. So you can use that to get the most likes. Do it during prime time where more people are online to see and like and engage with their posts. And oftentimes for sites like LinkedIn, the more likes you get in the first hour, the more the algorithm will like it, want to showcase your post to more people. So similar happens to Instagram too. So it's really important to get as many like the likes and comments as you want in the first hour of posting in order for the algorithm to favor you and want to show that to other people too. And then some sources. So I know I said a lot about like what you could do with content, but specifically different things you can say. So my point of view comes from a designer's point of view, or an artist's point of view, but you can showcase like work in progresses. You can also talk about what's happening locally in the community. How's design culture like? How are things going in your local community? It can also post some finished work. You can also talk about your experiences, what inspires you, what's going on with life, and more. So really, again, this depends on your goals and your niche, but these are some starting points if you're really stuck on what content to create. Or you can think about like what pain points are your niche struggling with. For example, in Design Buddies, a lot of times people are really confused of how to start design or how to interview for a job, because these are some skills that a lot of people never learned in school. So we have content to help people with that. We have events that help you with that. So that's another idea you can start with too. And then, yeah, the goal of it is to just engage people, like add values. Then think about the content reaction you want to. Do you want people to like share your content too? And also try to be as original as you can, using your own voice and point of view. Even if you are talking about the same thing as other people are, you can add your own point of view to it too, to make it original. So people just don't see you as someone who just like copies people. You definitely will put your own thought into it to be ultimately seen as a thought leader. But there really isn't. Again, it all depends. And so sometimes people, including myself, do a lot of A/B testing, measuring one variant against the other, seeing what is the best to do, what works the best. And also always surveying your audience, or always surveying your target audience, or followers, like any feedback, like what kind of posts do you like to see, what kind of posts do you not like to see, and just talking with the community, seeing what they want and ultimately designing for that. And then some other content types, kind of like categories they fall into are they useful, are they informational, are they like how to land your first design job, or how to design a GIF in Photoshop, so things like that. They can also be funny, they can be inspiring, funny like memes, inspiring to help people feel motivated. They can also be critical, they can be contrarian, challenge perspectives. These sometimes go viral. Like you can say like, oh yeah, many people believe this, but I actually don't. And just have your own take on this. Use this with caution though, because it can create some controversy, but you can also do that, being critical of others too. Like sometimes people challenge like status quo and things like that, also do really well. And yeah, so these are some examples of content. For LinkedIn, it's definitely longer form content. For this one, I talked about some struggles I went through and how I landed an offer, things like that, to help people give an idea of like, it's okay to go through these things as well. You can still do well at the end. That's kind of like my goal, is to help people like feel less alone in their struggles. And this one for Twitter, for more like short-term stuff, I have like work in progresses. And then on Instagram stories, on Design Buddies Instagram, I have different types of things that can interact. For example, what are your favorite design tools? And so if we know, then we can strategize more workshops based on their favorite design tools. So it's another way of getting feedback and surveying your target audience or your followers to strategize your content on. And yeah, basically just knowing about your target audience, and again, just emphasizing that point more, not always about the algorithm. Algorithm's always changing. Previously, LinkedIn favored photos. Now photos don't do as well as LinkedIn. From my personal experience, that could always change. So it always goes down to knowing your target audience and not let the algorithm like affect you. Because ultimately, it should be fun. You should just be fun. Have fun creating content, have fun connecting with people without worrying about like how are people going to like my post. So I post at exactly like 9:01. It kind of ruins the fun. So just have fun with it and understand your target audience, and just be wholesome, just help out and not worry about, don't stress about it too much, because it's always changing. And then your content also depends on what social media are you doing. So I got this from AdThis, but basically, for example, LinkedIn, talk about your skills. Instagram is more for photos. Twitter is like what you're doing live. YouTube is for videos. So again, it really depends on what platform you're using in order for you to strategize your content. And some quick social media strategies as of 2021. For Instagram, it's really important for especially a lot of creators in the creative field to showcase your work and also connect with other creatives. Basically, your gallery, it's very visual heavy, so you wouldn't really want to post like too many text heavy or like text photos and stuff, because when you go on your profile, that's like the first thing you see is a whole grid of your images. And LinkedIn is definitely more professionals. It's where you can connect with industry leaders and industry professionals. You can also gain a lot of collaborators because people can learn a lot about you through your LinkedIn profile. Facebook is still the largest platform. A lot of people use Facebook ads and Facebook pages to gain customers pretty fast. They have a really strong ads thing going on. And then Twitter is definitely for news. Twitter you definitely post the most frequently out of the other four I have here. And also important to just like get your voice heard. If you are a writer specifically, and if you strategize in like text-based content, then Twitter is definitely more important than Instagram because people care about your thoughts. You can also use hashtags as well, not too much, otherwise it feels like very clunky, and then you're like limited to like under 300 characters. So you definitely want to be strategic and what kind of things you want to tweet out there. And then for longer form content, I know the previously one I showed is very short form content. For example, I basically hit the character count on LinkedIn for this one. But for long form content, sky's the limit. You definitely want to have your own site where you can define your own constraints and boundaries. You can also have a blog where you can blog more about like how you got into UX, how your process is like, how you did this project, your case studies, things like that. Or you can vlog about it if you prefer talking about it, being on camera, articulating your thoughts that way instead of words. You can do a YouTube video, or you can do a podcast if you don't like to be on camera but you'd like to talk. You can just talk about your works on audio. So these are some areas where you can showcase some of your longer form content, so you don't have these constraints of Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, because all these things have word limits. And it's also important to have consistency in your post frequency. Like I emphasize consistency across your brand, but also consistency across your post frequency. It helps you drive your followers up actually. But also you need to be realistic about like everything that's going on in your life, making sure you're able to post. Don't want to like ghost your platform for like 2 months and just like post every 2 months. Definitely you want to keep up the quality of your posts as well, so making sure that you're scheduling up time for yourself in order to keep coming with quality content, because people can tell when you're just like posting for posting, if you don't have like the passion in it. Also, like I said before, like timing is also important too. Posting during prime time, you can see your insights for that when your followers are more active. And then the fourth part is our last part of building a personal brand is engaging with the community. It's really, really important to not live life in a vacuum, but also understand who your industry buddies are like. So it helps you learn more about the field. The more you engage, the more you learn more about like what the leaders and influencers of the field are talking about. And then you can also see what kind of content they're posting, what kind of people are interacting with their content, and learn your target audience. So it's a way to really just watch and seeing what they do and seeing like what kind of people interact with them and apply them to yourself. So a lot of times they've already tested this stuff, so it's good to look at using the same hashtags they use because they probably tested it out, and so. So definitely this is one of the plus sides of being involved in a community. You can also follow similar people, just make friends and follow them, and help them just share value too, and engage with their posts, support them, so they can also reciprocate as well, and also share content that they would find interesting, just like making friends on the internet. And just keep giving and just sharing your knowledge, and don't go too wild on promoting yourself because people usually like reciprocity, but just keep sharing and just keep helping people, and ultimately people will notice and help you build thought leadership. They'll recognize you as a leader in your field with the content you make and see you as a thought leader. So all these kind of builds up over time, but it's all about just doing things and telling people, showing your process, showing your expertise, making yourself known, engaging with other people so they know too, they share your content, and ultimately your goal, be a thought leader so you can stand out as a job applicant, you can stand out as a client in your niche, it can stand out to investors, and so on and so forth. So all these build up over time, does not happen overnight, but it just takes every day, or not every day, or like a lot of days, not over time, it really depends, for you to build up a strong foundation for yourself. And yeah, so some actual steps y'all can take to get started is just do a survey, like some market research about like what other people have been posting, what worked well for them. Look at how many likes each post has, what the topics are, what people are saying in the comments, and try testing them out for yourself too. And you can also retweet and add or repost and add your own take on it too to create more content for yourself. But make sure you credit them too if you decide to repost something, and you ask for permission too if you're reposting something too. So consent credit is also really, really appreciated in the creative industry too. You can also add comments, add your own perspective to people's stuff. And some people have actually built their personal brand through commenting on LinkedIn posts, but basically adding your own perspective, adding your take on things to conversations. And then when you comment on other people's posts, their followers will see you and want to check you out if they think it's interesting. So another way to grow your personal brand, grow your following with the comments. Also creating original content. Connect with others with similar fields as well. So these are just some action items you can do to get started and create your own personal brand. Ultimately, just make friends. Try not to head into relationships saying that it's like, oh yeah, it has to be equal, like it has to be like transactional. Just go in with the mindset, just like, I just want to get to know that person, just to like be friends, and then they will reciprocate as well. And these are some resources. I'll definitely link them all. All of them are actually linked on the Notion page, which will be shared with all of y'all. So you don't have to like type in each one individually. They'll be provided for you on Notion, on the whole doc, where you have a little worksheet and a summary of this whole presentation in. And so now talk a little bit about the visual identity. This is more specific for designers or artists or anybody in the creative field, how you want to stand out, how your personal brand translates to different visual design elements. And yeah, your personality should really define your visual style. Later, I'll be going into some things like color theory and how colors can drive different perceptions, how different typography styles can do different perceptions, and so on and so forth. And an example of these brand elements are like tone of voice, which aligns to your mission statement. You can have a logo, fonts, colors, patterns, illustrations, sound, photography, animations, personal style. So definitely not a checklist, but use whatever you makes sense for you and your goals and your target audience. So these are some examples of how these can play out. Tone of voice, basically the same as, very similar to your mission statement, how your brand, your personal brand communicates with your audience, and it really just influences how people perceive your message. And why you need one, this is all seen in your content, like I mentioned earlier, but you need one because it helps you basically connect with people, build trust, build authority, people know who you are. And examples of these tone of voice are like playful, simple, educational, whatever you want. And just have that as like the thesis statement of your visual style. And so, yeah, so it's very similar to getting to know your mission statement. Your tone of voice is who's your audience, what do you value, and what do you sound like, and what do you want people to think you sound like. And just a simple exercise, these colors can influence a lot of psychology. For example, colors can influence feelings. They're pretty powerful. But this also, as a disclaimer, it really depends on your culture. For example, red symbolizes a lot of excitement and strength, but it also symbolizes anger in some places. So, and like, you know, when you're angry, your face kind of turns red. So it really depends. So that's why you need to know your target audience, what kind of cultures they come from, and how they perceive different things. An example, blue, I use a lot of blue because trust, peace, that's like, I just want to be peaceful and trustworthy and stuff. So that's why I use blue. Purple, royalty, luxury, ambition. So I have purple. I use a little bit of yellow as well because I like to have creativity. So these are just some things common people associate with colors, but it also depends on your target audience, how you want to perceive yourself. Definitely want to have a few primary colors, kind of go from there. And this lays the foundation of your brand identity as well. So having visual style, it could be like minimalist, geometric, modernist, and just things like that, depending on what you want. And some fonts. So a lot of times fonts kind of influence your tone of voice. For example, this feels very classic, very bougie, very elegant. This feels very dramatic. This feels bold. And so all these different type styles influence how you feel in different ways. They give you some vibe. They give you some idea of like what the tone of voice is based on the font. And so it's important to pick fonts that align to your own tone of voice too. And lastly, not lastly, but another thing you can do is patterns and texture. So I use a lot of bubbles because I really like social media and I like bubbly stuff. A little cheesy, like bunnies and stuff, but it looks like bunny ears, but also speech bubble. That's why I have all these patterns and textures all around the place in my presentation and my website as well. And then I also have this one, the triangles and the circle for design buddies, because we're a really playful community and it symbolizes like a toy box. A lot of colors, a lot of diversity, because we offer we welcome all designers from all backgrounds. So the colors, many diverse people, things like that. Another thing people commonly use are blobs, so they can do that as well. And for your photos on your blog, definitely important to be consistent. I actually have 6 Instagram accounts. The reason why I have 6 is because I want each of them is to be consistent. For example, I run Grace Pace is mostly my running one / personal one where I talk about running, life, stuff like that. Graceful Food is my food art one where everything is food art across nature. Outside, taking outside, this is all taken outside too. Cafe Owo is my boba gram where I have boba with like fun animals on it, like Rilakkuma. And then Grace the Plant was the one I made a long time ago in college. I don't use this one anymore, but it's from my pre-med days where I took really nice study notes and have plants, growth, notes, growth and knowledge. And that was kind of like my theme. There's some examples of themes you can go with photography. You can go with examples of consistent illustration and iconography as well. Basically, just easily establish recognizability for your brand. For example, in Kenley, which is my art account, I have a lot of pastel colors, a lot of nature. As you can see, I really, really like nature, so I have that across all my accounts. That's kind of the common theme. And design buddies are definitely more playful in that as well. And then, yeah, that concludes my presentation. I'll actually go through a walkthrough of my Notion page as well, but definitely subscribe to Bravo's YouTube channel. Thank you so much, Bravo, for bringing me on. Definitely follow me on all my social media platforms. Feel free to contact me, ask me any questions about this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me anything. I'm going to share my screen so we can have the Notion page as well. But again, shout out to Bravo for bringing me on, and definitely subscribe to YouTube channel, check out the products and more. So that concludes my presentation. I hope y'all are able to level your personal brand and have a nice day, and thanks for tuning in.